Hello and welcome to the red part of the Theros Set review from ConstructiveCriticism.com. I'm Spencer.
I'm Casey, and I'm glad we are back. We just did black, but we were able to successfully come back.
Yeah.
So we're glad to be here.
Yeah, I mean, they say once you go black, you never go back. But I've been playing black on and off with some green, and some red and some blue.
Yeah, I played a lot of black decks. I played it with green and red and in Gen decks. I played black blue control decks. Played black white decks.
But luckily, we're on to one of my favorite colors in Magic.
It's in my top 5, no doubt.
Yeah, I mean, at least top 4, right?
I don't know.
All right.
There's a lot of white cards that I really like.
I just hate white.
Yeah. It's because you're a racist.
I am. That's why I'm marrying a black woman. All right. Archrone Crusader is 1 mana for a 1/1. All right, better do something sweet.
Heroic.
Oh, it's
What?
doing something not sweet.
My jaw. I'm literally tingling with anticipation. Alright, whenever you cast a spell that targets this dude, you get a 1/1 red soldier creature token with haste.
I just want to know what I'm targeting these guys with. Like, if there's something sweet to target them with, suddenly all these cards get so sweet.
Yeah. Exactly. Like, if it was like 1 mana, target creature gets +1/+1, generate 1 mana, return this card to your hand. That would be really good. But none of them, like...
That card seems really broken.
Yeah, I mean, just obviously, right? I was just kidding.
Do you just give all creatures +infinite?
Yeah.
Oh, well, that card seems broken.
Yeah, and like, Infinite Storm, like, there's lots of things that are going good for you here. But obviously there's I feel like somebody's going to Giant Growth a lot of these creatures.
I mean, Giant Growth's not the worst thing that you could be doing, but...
Like, honestly, even if it was just, like, you could target it with abilities and get this value, so I could, like, Blood Rush a guy and do things, but you can't. Like, it's only spells, and I just don't like it. I don't like this heroic mechanic.
Anger of the Gods is 1 and double red. It's a sorcery. Anger of the Gods deals 3 damage to each creature. If a creature dealt damage this way, we put into your graveyard, exile it instead. This card's a...
Yeah, it's a slam dunk. It's a 3.5, right?
Yeah, it's somewhere between a 3 and a 4.
Yeah.
It becomes... I mean, if it becomes a pillar of the format when it's good, and that makes it up there with a 4, right?
Yeah.
So, and then if it's not, it's probably just a 3. So it's I think 3.5 is accurate for it.
Yeah, I mean, it kills a lot of stuff. It's a 3 damage Pyroclasm effect, and it exiles, so it actually deals with this Voice of Resurgence. I don't know why it just became Voice of the Resurgence, but
yeah.
Voice of Resurgence. It kills all of our 3 toughness creatures, which there are just a lot of.
Yeah.
I like this card a lot. I think it's sweet.
All right, what's up next?
Next up, we have Arena Athlete, a red and a colorless for a 2/1. So, I mean, we're on curve here. Let's see where this goes. Oh, heroic. Boo. Whenever you cast a spell that targets it, target creature and opponent controls can't block. 0.
It's just worse than
every card.
No. There's a card directly to compare it to. It's the 2/1 for 2 that with Battalion that touchdown Alabama screw my life. Yeah.
It's just worse than Fire Fist Striker, and it's not close.
Yeah.
And Battalion is also a mechanic that is bad, and this card is worse than that.
Fire Fist Striker is probably going to be one of the best cards in Standard for the first little while, but...
Yeah, but like Battalion is a flimsy mechanic. Like, it makes you overextend. It encourages you to overextend.
I think that you're giving our listeners very mixed signals. If you're playing a mono red deck, are you playing Fire Fist Striker?
Yeah.
Okay, so...
But I'm saying, like, not because we have... Like, it's not a card that you look forward to playing. It's just a powerful card that you have to play. And...
I can tell you from Pro Tour testing yesterday that card won me more games than any other card in my deck.
Okay.
It was the best card in the mono red deck.
Interesting. Okay, I mean, I haven't really played mono red with it. I played mono red with it a little bit in the Burning Tree Emissary decks, and it was... Yeah,
it is a Burning Tree Emissary deck.
Certainly reasonable. And it's much better than this card in...
Yeah, I think so too. I think this card's a 0.
Yeah, I just think in a vacuum...
If for some reason, later on, in context, if we get some sweet targeted cards, like really sweet, right? Like, if we get free spells that target our creatures, that do it in a good way, like Mutagenic Growth, or things like that,
yeah, I mean,
these cards get really sweet.
Yeah, we at least get to come back to these cards and talk about them.
Yeah,
As of right now, I'm just looking at like playing enchantment auras and
Yeah.
ones that aren't like rank war. I just don't want to be playing them.
So Borderland Minotaur is next.
4 mana, 4/3, no words, 0.
Yeah, I think it's a 0. So Border Fall is 6 and double red. Border Fall deals 5 damage. How you choose among any number of target creatures and or players. 0.
Yeah, I mean 7 mana for like this type of effect. Even though you can split it up and kill.
It's actually 8 mana. I'm sorry.
It's 8 mana. This card's getting worse all the time.
Yeah, 0.
So yeah, it's absolutely 0.
Coordinated Assault is 1 red. Up to 2 target creatures get +1/+0 when first strike until end of turn. That's fine. In a heroic deck, if you're doing that, it's cool. Interestingly enough about this card, I'm going to win so many limited games because of this card.
Yeah, I mean it's fine like in limited. Like most combat tricks are good in limited and not good in constructed.
Yeah.
Right, and this is no different.
Death Hollow Raider is 1 and a red. It's a 2/3. Death Hollow Raider attacks each turn if able.
And
Death Bellow.
Yeah.
Death Bellow.
So
That makes sense.
It's 2/3 for 2. Has to attack each turn. I mean, I don't usually love this type of card, so
And it's got Regenerate for 2 and a black.
yeah,
I think it's a 0.
I agree. I think this card is gonna like have Boros Reckoner eat its lunch every time you try to play it.
Boros Reckoner. It's just like I'm the Minotaur bitch. But anyway.
Yeah.
So Demolish is 3 and a red. It's a reprint. It's a short target land artifact, and it won't see constructed play. It's a 0.
0.
Dragon Mantle is 1 red. Enchantment Aura. Enchant creature. When it enters the battlefield, draw a card, and then you give the creature fire breathing.
So
This card's not a 0.
No, I think it's a 0.5 though. So the card that this reminds me of is Stonewright
Okay.
from Avacyn's Restored, or Avacyn Restored.
Okay.
Because it has a similar effect. It's 1 red mana to give another creature fire breathing, but Stonewright also was a creature that had fire breathing in that situation as well. It left a body behind. This card replaces itself, but like I just don't know that this is something that we need to be spending a card doing.
Yeah, I give it a 0.5. It's better than fire breathing the card, but it's not better by a lot.
Yeah.
I wouldn't play this card, but I wouldn't hate somebody if they found a situation to play this card in.
Yeah, and like cards like this always, because it has a effect that is on the surface similar to Kessig Wolfrun, so people are going to be looking for cards that do that type of thing, trying to just replace cards. But the reason that Kessig Wolfrun was so powerful is because it was a land that had this effect, and it could just do it all the time, like every turn.
And add trample.
Yeah. So like, don't go chasing waterfalls with a card like this, trying to make it good, because it just like isn't.
Yeah. So Ember Swallower is next. It's 2 and double red for a 4/5. We both gave Dragon Mantle a 0.5, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So this card's 4 for a 4/5. So I'm expecting some downside when I look at a card like that usually, or maybe a very small upside. So it's 5 and double red for Monsters 3. So 7 for Monsters 3. When it becomes monsters, each player sacrifices 3 lands. This card's not a 0, but it's also not a 1. I give this card a 0.001.
I think that it's like another 0.5. Like it's a marginal card. Like the sacrifice 3 lands thing is interesting to me.
Yeah. I don't like it, but
but it's interesting, right? Like,
yeah.
Like you don't necessarily like it, but like you would.
I don't know where it fits, and I don't know that it's good.
Yeah.
I would assume that it's bad.
Yeah.
The thing that happens to you when you play Magic for as much. I mean, I haven't been playing Magic for very long, but I've played a lot of Magic.
Yeah.
One of our loyal listeners, Vinny Gorman, was commenting that after he saw my stats on, because there was that website where you could see your Magic statistics, and he was like, "Oh yeah, I'd expect that my stats are similar to yours." And then when he saw them, he's like, "Well, you've played way more Magic than I have," and he's been playing forever.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's what only counts from when Planeswalker points were invented, right?
It is not.
Oh, okay. So.
It actually counts forever.
So yeah, and he's been playing Magic since what, like Onslaught or something.
Yes, and I've played more Magic than him.
Yeah. So
I've played a lot of Magic. I want you to read the next card, and I actually want to hear what you have to say about this card before I say anything.
Okay. Nanica Mogus, 3 colorless and a red. for a 4/2. When it enters the battlefield, it does damage to each opponent equal to your devotion to red. So the thing about this card is, if it had haste, I would be in love with it. I think that it is kind of our replacement to Hellrider. Is like the closest thing we've got for a mono red deck. I think that just being able to come in, make an impact as soon as it hits the board, and then it's also a reasonable power creature on its own. Without haste, I have to give it a 2. With haste, I would really love this card.
I give this card a 3. This card is. I was playing Chandra Pyromancer / this. Sometimes when you play test, a good thing to do is for slots you can't decide on the card. When you're proxying, if you just write down both cards and slash down the middle and just see in what situations both of the cards are good and play them as such. To start with, obviously you can't do that. Once you decide what card you want to play, you have to test the matchup more thoroughly and to see which is better. But which I did not expect to happen. This card was better than Chandra in 3 of the 4 matchups we tested. And I give this card a 3. I think it's the real deal, and I thought that it was going to be really bad.
Yeah, I think this card has an obvious power to it. If mono red is the best aggro deck, this is a good card in it.
Yeah.
If it's red black, I could see it being Exava, but in the slot instead, just because she does have haste and is a little bit better on her own.
Huge.
Yeah, she's just a little bit better on her own than he is.
After a Wrath, you come down and play an Exava, that's much better than playing this card.
Yeah, exactly. This guy, after a Wrath, is just, kind of piddly, right?
Yeah. Alright, so next up we have Fire Drinker Satyr. It's 1 red for a 2/1. When it's dealt damage, it deals that much damage to you, and then it has an activated ability of 1 and a red to give it +1/+0, and it deals you 1. What do you think of this card?
So, you and I talked about this a little bit yesterday. I think that it's a bad card, but it's going to see play in mono red for the time being. There's going to be a better 1-drop somewhere in the block that will replace it.
You know what I found in testing?
What?
This card was almost always better than Rakdos Cackler.
Really?
Almost always.
Okay. Why?
So if your 2-drops don't have haste, you can play your second land and crack in with this guy and threaten the 3 damage, so they can't block with a lot of creatures they would normally be blocking with unless they want to trade.
And they want to trade and do a lot of damage to you.
Yeah, but here's the thing: is that the 2-drops that have to have a 2-drop, and so here's the cards I'm talking about.
They have to have any creature.
Hold on. So if they're playing 1-drops, then they're playing a very different style deck than what I'm seeing in testing.
Okay.
One of the 1-drops that could see play are Experiment 1, and things like that. But if you're trading your Experiment 1s, if you're trading your Wild Nakados for my Jackal Pups, I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
And then on the other side of it, Sylvan Caryatid is actually one of the best cards in this set, and I'm a strong believer that it will see plenty of constructed play.
Yeah. And
this card is probably the best card in your mono red deck against that in the early game.
Yeah, sure.
So.
Yeah.
I'm gonna give this card a solid 3.
It has a lot of words on it. I think it's a 2. I think that it could be better than I think it is.
Yeah, that pump ability was way better than I thought it was going to be.
Okay, is it? Because if that's the case, then because that almost looks like flavor text to me. And
yeah, I thought that was going to be the case too, and it was not.
Okay, so I thought that it was just a Jackal Pup that just had extra words on it. If that pump ability is more relevant than I'm thinking it is, which it certainly could be. Is a mono red deck, you don't usually care about your own life total that much, so I could see that being feasible. If you're playing on curve, though, you don't ever want to have extra mana, so it's awkward there. But options are always good.
Yeah,
you
don't have to use that mana. I was just saying that there was many times where it was interesting because I found myself always playing this on turn 1 over Rakdos Cackler, and it was always correct.
Okay.
So, we have Flame Speaker Adept. It's 2 and a red for a 2/3. When it enters the battlefield, you get +2/+0. Whenever you scry, it gets +2/+0 and gains first strike until end of turn. I think this card's a 0.
I think it is too. Whenever you scry is maybe the most parasitic mechanic I've ever seen on a card. In that it just is only you have to be so heavy into this scry deck to make that even anything. And it's a 2/3 for 3. I think this card is a firm 0.
Woohoo! Sorry.
I don't think it's even a 0 that's fun to hang out with or look at.
I don't. I think it's a 0.
Just
All
gonna
right,
clip right past it.
you got the next one, bro.
All right, Hammer of Perforos, red, and 1, legendary enchantment artifact. Creatures you control have haste. So I mean, like I'm at least a little interested in this. I'm paying attention. I mean, Fervor is not a great
not
card,
that good, right?
but I'm at least paying attention, right? I mean, if a creature had that's one of the appeals of playing Exotic is that it gives other creatures haste. So I'm at least willing to listen.
Okay.
Red and 2 colorless. Tap it, sacrifice a land, put a 3/3 colorless golem enchantment artifact creature onto the battlefield. And it would have haste. So I don't really like this. I think that this is just a Fervor with words on it that's legendary.
Okay.
I'm kind of prepared to give this card like a 1.5.
Yeah, I think that's the right. I think that its ability to sacrifice a land to get a guy is good, but I think that it needs. I think that it needs a different mana cost and activated ability to make that good. I think that it's just too much invested mana in a deck that doesn't want to spend the time to do what this card's trying to do.
Yeah.
I think that the card's a sweet card, and I wish that it did it differently because I think that an ability like this is good for standard, but I just don't think this is the card that's going to do it.
Next up, we've got Ill-Tempered Cyclops. It's a 3 colorless and a red for a 3/3. So I'm like not that interested, but we'll see. Trample on a 3/3, not that great. Monstrosity 3 for a red and 5 colorless. Okay, like I'm whatever. These monstrosity cards are all interesting like that, and then, like if I have the mana, sure. This one doesn't really pass the vanilla test.
0.
And it doesn't do anything once it becomes monstrous. This is a 0.
All right, Labyrinth Champion is 1 red and 3 for a 2/2. That's pretty bad.
Yeah.
Whenever you cast a spell that targets it, it deals 2 damage to target creature or player. The fact that this card took a rare slot from me honestly upsets me a little. I'm giving this card a 0.
Yeah, it's a firm 0, and it's just bad. Like this heroic mechanic's just pissing me off. Like I don't like it at all.
Oh. Sorry.
Let's see, next up we have Searing Spear with a different name. It's called Lightning Strike now. It's a red and a colorless. These 3 damage. I mean, we know the deal with this card. Pretty sure there's a recording of me like guaranteeing that Lightning Bolt was going to be in this set because it's the Greek God set, and this is the shit that they bring to the table instead. I am not impressed with this card. I mean, it's fine. It's Searing Spear. It's a fine card. It's a 2.
Yeah, I like this card. I think it's a 2.5 or a 3. So,
I mean, it's a known quantity. Magma Jet, red and a colorless, instant 2 damage to target creature or player. Scry 2. I mean, I think it's basically the same deal. Scry 2 is a lot better than Scry 1.
You're just playing this in a different style of deck.
Yeah,
they're the same cards for different decks.
Yeah. The problem is it's just going to depend on how many 2 toughness creatures there are that we care about.
Okay.
But Scry 2 is good. Like, Scry 2 is way better than Scry 1, right?
So what are you rating this?
I'm also rating this card a 2.
I rate this card at 2.5 or a 3. Same rating I gave the other one. All right, go ahead.
Messenger Speed, red. Enchant creature, aura. Enchanted creature has trample and haste.
0.
Not interested at all. Minotaur Skull Cleaver, 3 mana for a 2/2 haste. When it enters the battlefield, it gets +2/+0 until end of turn. We already have this card, like in.
It has
Maze.
flying though.
Well, not even that one. There's another like Yashino First Blade.
Yeah, that's. Oh, yeah, that one's probably better than. I thought that when I saw this card too, actually.
Yeah, I don't really.
And that one gets toughness too.
Yeah, like I think this card is just a 0.
Mm.
Ordeal of Perforos, red and the colorless.
It's an ordeal.
It's an ordeal. It bolts them on its way out. 0.
Yeah, I mean, it does the whole, every time it attacks, it gets a creature gets +1/+1 counter, and then when it has 3, you sacrifice it. Yeah, I think it's a 0. It's just bad.
Peak Eruption. Red and 2 colorless. Sorcery, destroy target mountain. Peak Eruption deals 3 damage to that land's controller.
I would normally give this card a 0. But with Chained to the Rocks,
Yeah,
it suddenly becomes way better.
It becomes interesting without a doubt.
Like if you board this in against the Chain of the Rock decks and destroy their even if you're just destroying their land to give them 3 damage, that's fine. And then if you're destroying their land with Chain of the Rocks on it,
you're getting
a creature back. This card gets way better. I think this card's a 2.
Yeah, it's definitely a sideboard card. There's no way you could main deck the card, obviously. It's a good sideboard card.
Yeah.
It's a perfectly reasonable sideboard card.
And it got a lot better when they decided to chain people to mountains.
Yeah, absolutely it did.
So,
Portent of Betrayal. A red and 3 for a sorcery. Gain control of target creature until end of turn, untap it, give it haste, scry 1.
Bad.
I mean, these effects are good at 3 mana, not that impressive at 4 mana.
And I don't think that this card is unreasonable at 3 mana either. I don't think that they're raising all the mana costs of perfectly reasonable spells by 1, and then adding Scry 1 to them.
Yeah.
If you're going to do that, just make it Scry 2. I know Scry 2 is really good, but at least make good cards.
I mean, we understand that they can't all be winners, right? They're not all going to be very good cards, but these cards are all just marginal or bad.
Yeah. So next up we have Priest of Iros. It's a 1 mana 1/1.
And with an activated ability that for 4 mana you can sacrifice, one of which has to be red or white, by the way. So it's a white and 3 colorless to sacrifice it, destroy target enchantment. No thank you to any of that.
Yeah, that's a 0.
Yeah.
So this card's getting a lot of love. Go ahead and read it.
Yeah, so much. So a red and 3 colorless for a 6/5 indestructible. You know the drill with the gods. You have to have a devotion to red of 5 to make it a creature. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, Perforos deals 2 damage to each opponent. And then it can pay 3 mana. You can pay 3 mana, red and 2 colorless, to make all of your creatures breathe fire. You get +1/+0 until end of turn. That part I don't care that much about, but it could be a perfectly reasonable mana sink. So whenever a creature enters the battlefield under your control, you're doing 2 damage. That is certainly an interesting ability to me.
Every spell turns into a shock at your opponent's face.
Yes. And what I'm thinking is, does this most at home with Young Pyromancer and Master of the Waves? In that sort of weird blue-red counterburn deck?
I don't know where this card has a home. I think that it's competing too much with the 4-drop we talked about earlier in Chandra. And I think that those cards are probably better in these mono red decks. I know that a lot of the pros are plugging this card into their deck lists on their sites. I'm gonna say something that not a lot of people want to hear, but I think that that's a lot of sales tactics. I think that they're trying to sell it.
Yeah, I mean, so we got one of our Would That Be Goods was about this card.
Yeah, it was.
And I said that I think it was marginal. Matt said he thinks that it could be okay, but he thought that it was a little cute.
And I mean, the card is a little cute. There's going to be times where this card, if you're playing a mono red aggro deck, comes down turn 4 as a huge dude.
And then you play a bunch of dudes and you're doing so much damage.
Yeah.
But what are we doing when we have a bunch of dudes in play already, Spencer?
We're attacking with them.
What are we doing ultimately?
We're setting ourselves up to get wrathed.
We're winning, right? If we have a bunch of creatures already, we're winning, right? So, do I need this creature to help me win more?
I don't think so. I think that the 4-drop that we talked about earlier probably does more damage. If you think about it, so he needs 5.
Yeah. And also,
so you already have 4. So the other guy's going to enter the battlefield, do 5 damage, and you'll have a 4/2, and that's guaranteed damage off the bat.
Yeah. And that's way more relevant. When we're looking at these 4-drops that have been historically good in aggro decks, Hellrider, Hero of Oxid Ridge, its recent ones. This creature, the other one, the 4/2, is much closer to that because it does something immediately upon coming down.
Yeah.
This falls more in line with Exava, where it makes your creatures that are coming in later better.
And Exava has haste. Yeah, I don't know that I like this card in aggro. I'm going to give this card a 2.
I think it's a 2.5. It definitely has potential.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I don't know exactly where it belongs. I think that if I'm making a bunch of Young Pyromancer tokens and getting...
I'd rather just play Ogre Battle Driver in that deck.
Potentially, being able to do damage without attacking is relevant sometimes.
Yeah.
Ogre Battle Driver probably is better, in that context, but this card probably has more far-reaching applications than that. So I am okay saying that it's just generally better than Ogre Battle Driver in that deck anyway. I don't know. I think it's a 2.5.
Yeah, I'll give it a 2. All right. Porphyros Emissary. You want to read that one?
Sure. 4 mana, red and 3 colorless for a 3/3. This better be good. It has Bestow for red and 6, so I'm a little less interested. Can only be blocked by 2 or more creatures, and the enchanted creature is +3/+3 and has to be double blocked. I mean, just no thank you to any of it, really. At 4 mana for a 3/3 that has to be double blocked. Like, if my opponent is playing a 3 mana or a 4 mana 3/3 that doesn't do anything when it comes in, like, I don't really care.
0.
Yeah, it's a hard 0.
Rager Porphyros is 4 and a red for a sorcery. It deals 4 damage to target creature. It can't be regenerated this turn. Scry 1. 0.
Yeah. You can't just randomly throw in. You can't add 4 mana, can't be regenerated, and
To a
scry
Flame
1.
Slash,
Yeah.
and then just, like,
expect me to, like, yeah, I mean.
at
again,
2 mana, this card is
the
nuts.
Yeah. At 2 mana, this card is insane. At 3 mana, it's still unplayable, right? And then,
Yeah, I mean, it's a fine line, right? Like, at 3 mana, it's probably not playable. It's playable at instant at 3 mana, maybe. At sorcery, it needs to be at 2. So, yeah.
At 5, it has to do way more impressive things than what it does.
Alright, so Rage Blood Shaman is 1 red, 2 red and 1 for a 2/3 trampler. That doesn't make any sense.
No.
Other Minotaurs you control get +1/+1 and have trample. I don't know what this card is.
So there's definitely like a Minotaur tribal theme in Theros. I don't know how good the Minotaur deck is.
If this card is 0.
Yeah,
I mean, it's probably a 0.5, but
it might be a 1.
it could be a 1. I'll give it a 1.
There's also another Minotaur Lord in the set that is kind of, I feel the same way about, that is just like a little bad. I don't know. This is a 1.
Alright, so Satyr Rambler is 1 and a red for a 2/1, and it has trample, and it's a 0.
Yeah. Next.
Uh,
Spark Jolt, red, instant, 1 damage, scry 1, 0.
No. I give that card a 1.
Why? What deck are you playing it in?
I'm playing it when X1s are really good.
I'd rather play Electric Ring.
It all depends.
I think that if X1s are good, then they're probably going to have multiples, and I'd rather have Electric Ring.
Alright, keep going.
Spear Point Oread, red and 2 colorless, 2/2, bestow for 6 mana. It's a 2/2 with first strike. Enchanted creature gets +2/+2 in first strike, 0.
Yeah, I give this card a 0 as well. Just most of these Stow cards are pretty bad.
So bad.
Yeah, so
No amount of enchantment aura has to do a couple of things to be really good. Like Rancor is really good just because you always get it back, so it's much harder to get the automatic 2-for-1 that you normally get with an enchantment aura, or it has to be going on to a hexproof creature. And
Yeah.
we're basically losing our 2 best hexproof creatures from standard.
Yeah.
And we're not really getting anything to replace them. And, I mean, I just don't care for any of these auras.
I mean, I like Witchstalker. I think that Witchstalker is a fine hexproof creature, but these aren't the auras you want to play with that card.
I don't know, I don't think that there's a hexproof deck in standard right now. I don't think that you're playing that right now at all.
I don't. I wouldn't count it out, but I agree.
Okay.
I don't think there is one, but I wouldn't say that with absolute certainty. All right, so we have Stone Shock Giant. It's 3 and double red so it's 5 power. It's a fire elemental with monstrosity. 3 for 8. It's a 0.
Yeah. I mean, we're just talking about too much mana for this. Storm Breath Dragon.
I was going to say this is the most underrated card in the set, but it's actually the most expensive card in the set.
Yeah.
Which is weird because no one's talking about it,
Yeah.
and yet it's the most expensive, and it's also one of the better ones. And I don't know why no one's talking about it. Yet it also cost $1 billion.
Yeah. It's weird in that regard. I agree. So it's a red, and 3 colorless for a flying haste dragon. So there's a card that fits that description that we've seen a lot of play in Thunder My Hellkite. That card is a 5/5. This one's a 4/4. It has monstrosity 3 for a red, and 5. So 7 mana gets us a 7/7 dragon. And when it becomes monstrous, it does damage equal to each opponent, or damage to each opponent equal to the number of cards in that player's hand. I mean, that's certainly a thing. Has protection from white, so it can't be chained to rocks, and it can't be Selesnya charmed, and it can't do a lot of things. A lot of things can't happen to it.
Yeah, I think this card's much better than whatever love it's getting is less than ideal.
Yeah, I mean, it's a mythic dragon, so like it's obviously going to be some amount of dollars.
All right, so what are you rating this card?
I feel pretty good giving this card like a 3.5.
I think a 3 or a 3.5 is exactly what I was thinking as well.
I mean, it comes in like it's not Thundermaw Hellkite, but
it's not. I mean, it's very good. That's all I'm going to say.
It's just a hair short of that, I think. And Thundermaw Hellkite was a 4, and this is a 3.5, and I feel comfortable saying that. All right. Titan of Eternal Fire. This is a sweet name, so I want it to be really good. It's a red and 5 mana for a 5/6, and has the ability that each human you control has pay a red and tap it to do 1 damage to target creature or player. This is another card that is sweet because it tells me a story, which I really like, but I don't actually like the card.
Well, I think that this card's a limited bomb and a 0 in constructed.
Absolutely.
All right, let's go to the next one.
All right. Titan's Strength. Red, for an instant, target creature gets +3/+1 until end of turn, scry 1.
0?
I mean, I think that this one falls into the if this heroic mechanic is better than we think it is, this is a good card.
Okay, sure, 0.5.
So it's a 1 or a 0.5.
All right.
2-headed Cerberus, red, and colorless, double strike, 1/2.
0.
Yeah. And then our last card in this segment of the podcast, Wild Celebrants. Red, and 3 for a 5/3. When it enters the battlefield, you may destroy target artifacts.
It's a 0 only because this ability would have been better if this card was like a 2/2, just like a functional reprint of all the other 2/2s for 3, that when they enter the battlefield, destroy artifacts. That's really what the set needed, and it didn't get it because the limited format's supposed to be a little bit slower.
Yeah.
So I give this card a 0.
Yeah, there's just nothing about it that I'm interested in. 0.
All right, so red, worse than black, better than white, worse than blue?
Yeah.
All right, sounds good.
I think these cards this whole set is actually kind of falling into, like, right where the history of Magic kind of is, right?
Yeah.
We've got blue and black as being our best colors. Red is somewhere, like, just not quite on that level.
I think that it literally goes, blue and black are the best, green and red are neck and neck.
Yeah.
They're still good, and then white's pretty bad.
Yeah, I mean, white does a lot of work, like, in conjunction through these decks, and there are some interesting, like Death and Taxes and mono white stacks and things like that in Legacy are interesting decks.
Yeah.
But they're just hate decks, which I'm glad that white is kind of taken on this hate identity rather than just having the life gain identity. But yeah, I think that we're probably going to fall in line. We're going to probably review green and think that it's about the same as red.
Yeah. All right, so thanks for watching red, and watch green through lands, everyone.
All right, got 2 more.